The faint glow of my laptop screen cast a dim light across my face as I sat hunched over my desk, drowning in a sea of research. My name is Liam Clark, and I call Florida my home. At 33, I had built a reputation as a relentless journalist, someone who never shied away from the murky waters others avoided. This latest assignment was no different. My mission was to unravel the tangled web of religious deception woven into modern society. For weeks, I had buried myself in sermons, interviews, and historical documents, searching for patterns that seemed to reveal something deeply unsettling. Promises of prosperity, miraculous healings, and divine favor were wrapped in polished words and theatrical displays. The false prophet, a term critics often muttered in hushed tones when describing some of the most influential religious leaders of the day. To me, it all seemed like an elaborate performance, a manipulative game designed to exploit the gullible and the desperate. Yet, deep in my mind, a small, stubborn doubt lingered. What if there was something more to it? What if, hidden beneath the layers of greed and deceit, there were fragments of truth I was failing to see? I shook off the thought, forcing my attention back to the task at hand. The steady rhythm of rain tapping against the window was oddly soothing, a stark contrast to the storm churning in my thoughts. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I crafted a headline bold enough to catch anyone's attention. The deception of the modern Messiah, exposing the truth behind the false prophet. I leaned back in my chair, letting out a slow breath. This is definitely going to ruffle some feathers, I muttered, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of my mouth. But as the bold headline stared back at me from the screen, an unexpected unease crept in. The thought of hitting publish, of potentially painting a target on my back, felt heavier than I was prepared for. A sudden wave of exhaustion washed over me. My chest tightened and my vision began to blur. Panic gripped me as I clutched at my shirt, struggling to breathe. The room seemed to spin wildly. The once soothing rain, outside, now a deafening roar. In a fleeting, terrifying moment, my body gave out. The chair toppled beneath me, and I crumpled to the ground. But it wasn't the darkness of unconsciousness that engulfed me. No, this was different. Deeper, heavier, like I had fallen into a bottomless void. The faint rhythm of my heartbeat faded into nothingness, replaced by an oppressive silence. And then, cutting through that silence like a blade, came a voice. Clear, piercing, unmistakable. Liam, your search for truth has only just begun. My awareness flickered, fragile and fleeting, like the sputtering flame of a candle in the dark. I couldn't tell if my eyes were open, but I could see an endless expanse stretched out before me, void of light or darkness. It was the absence of everything, a nothingness so profound it seemed to defy comprehension. I tried to move, but my body felt weightless, stripped of any sense of substance or form. A low hum filled the void, subtle at first, then growing louder and more intense until it resonated through me, vibrating every fiber of my being. Panic surged within me, a sharp and primal instinct, but before it could take hold, the hum shifted. It transformed into a melody, hauntingly beautiful, yet strangely familiar, as though I'd heard it before in some forgotten memory. Then, out of the vast nothingness, a tiny pinprick of light appeared. It seemed impossibly far away, yet it called to me with an irresistible pull, magnetic and unyielding. The light began to grow, expanding rapidly, its warmth cascading over the void and transforming it into a radiant tunnel of brilliance. I felt myself moving toward it, not walking, but gliding effortlessly, like a leaf adrift on a gentle breeze. As I drifted closer to the light, whispers began to swirl around me, disjointed, unintelligible, but undeniably voices. They seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere all at once, their tones a mix of warning and longing. Some whispered my name, soft and haunting, while others murmured phrases I couldn't grasp, as though they spoke in a language beyond my understanding. Then I saw them. Shadowy figures emerged along the edges of the tunnel, lingering just beyond the light's reach. Their movements were slow and deliberate, their forms shifting and writhing like smoke caught in an unseen current. My heart pounded as one of them leaned closer, its featureless face somehow fixed on me. "You've been deceived," it hissed, its voice like the rasping breath of the wind. I froze, unable to respond. But before I could even process what I'd heard, the tunnel erupted into a vast, radiant realm. It was a place of unimaginable brilliance, where colors beyond human comprehension danced and swirled in perfect harmony. These hues seemed alive, each singing its own note in a symphony so breathtaking it overwhelmed my very soul. The sheer beauty of it brought me to my knees, if I even had knees in this place. And then, amidst the radiant splendor, I saw him. It wasn't just a figure, it was Jesus. He stood at the heart of the radiance, the source of its brilliance. The light didn't merely surround him, it poured from him, an endless glow of holiness and power. His eyes locked onto mine, piercing through every hidden corner of my soul. They carried a love so deep it was almost unbearable. Yet there was an undeniable authority that demanded reverence. His outstretched hands, marked with scars, timeless and eternal, testified to a sacrifice beyond comprehension. Yet from those scars, I felt a peace so profound it brought tears to my eyes. This was Jesus, the risen Savior, the King of Kings. When he spoke, it felt as though the very fabric of this realm responded to his voice. "Liam," he said, his tone both gentle and thunderous, "you sought the truth but failed to see the full deception." My voice faltered, caught in the magnitude of his presence. Who are you?" I managed to ask, my words trembling. "I am the way, the truth, and the life," he replied, his voice resonating deep within me, echoing through my soul. I felt the weight of those words, anchoring me in this eternal moment. He continued, his tone steady yet filled with sorrow. "The false prophet has already begun his work. The prophet himself is yet to come, but the system he represents is here, deeply rooted, weaving deception into the hearts of my people." My thoughts scrambled, struggling to grasp the enormity of what he was revealing. "What kind of system?" I whispered, the question escaping before I could think. His eyes, filled with compassion and sadness, met mine. "A system that seeks to replace my laws with its own version of truth," he explained. "It presents a false Christianity, one that twists my words and distorts my teachings. It deceives my people daily, drawing them further from me while disguising itself in the guise of righteousness." As he spoke, vivid images formed in my mind. I saw congregations, leaders, followers, devout yet misled. The sorrow that swelled within me was unlike anything I had ever felt. "But how far does it go?" I asked, my voice barely audible. His expression grew more solemn. "It will not stop," he said, his words heavy with inevitability. "This system will grow in power and influence, reaching every corner of the earth. By the end, it will be the dominant form of Christianity. It will lead many to stumble, paving the way for the prophet's arrival." A knot formed in my chest, the weight of his words pressing down on me. My thoughts raced, fear and urgency mingling in a whirlwind. Desperately, I searched for hope. "Is there anything that can stop it?" I asked, my voice carrying a faint tremor. His gaze softened, and his voice became gentle yet firm. "Truth," he answered simply. "Truth spoken boldly, rooted in love. My word is unchanging. It will always shine light in the darkness. But my people must cling to it, discerning the false from the true, no matter how enticing the lies may seem. They preach in my name," he said, his voice steady but heavy with sorrow. "Yet their hearts are far from me. They wear the appearance of holiness, imitating me, but their motives betray them. My people are deceived," he continued. "These false prophets don't come with obvious evil. Their words sound righteous. Their doctrines appear faithful. They mimic what my children expect from true Christian teaching. But their lies are subtle, twisted truths that corrode the foundation of my word. I could feel the weight of his sorrow, and with it, the immense responsibility he was placing before me. My breath caught in my throat. How could this happen? This deception, Jesus said, his voice growing firmer, has already taken root. It is being taught in pulpits, spread in conferences, proclaimed in religious services all over the world. They've laid the groundwork for a greater deceit yet to come. My chest ached as I whispered, "How can anyone tell the difference?" Jesus turned to me, his gaze piercing but kind. "If my children listen carefully," he said, "they'll hear the difference. These voices are not of me. They speak from the enemy. But too many ignore discernment. They crave what feels good, not what is true." The vision shifted, and suddenly I found myself in the midst of a massive crusade. Thousands of people packed into a stadium, their faces alight with hope and desperation. The air was thick with anticipation, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe as I looked around. On the stage, a man in a white suit paced confidently, holding a microphone. His voice boomed over the crowd, commanding their attention. "God is here tonight," the preacher proclaimed. "Healing power is in this place. Do you believe it?" The crowd erupted in cheers, their hands raised high in unity. My eyes followed the preacher's gesture as he pointed toward a wheelchair on the stage. A frail, elderly man sat in it, his head bowed in silence. The preacher approached him and laid hands on him, shouting words of prayer. "Rise in the name of Jesus." The man trembled, his body shaking with uncertainty. Then, to the crowd's amazement, he stood. Tears streamed down his face as he took a step, then another. He broke into a run, crossing the stage to thunderous applause. The scene was electric, overwhelming. The crowd was swept up in the moment, but as I watched, a strange unease settled over me. I turned to Jesus, my voice filled with uncertainty. Was that real? He looked at me, sorrow in his eyes. It was supernatural, but not from me. My heart sank. I turned my gaze back to the crowd, their joy palpable. How could this be a lie? These false prophets, the Lord explained, perform signs and wonders to captivate my people. But their power is not mine. It comes from the enemy, designed to deceive even the elect. My mind reeled. The miracle had looked so real, so good. They draw attention to themselves, Jesus continued, not to me. They speak pompous words, claiming to act in my name while twisting my truth. They promise blessings without cost, revival without repentance. And my people believe them. The vision shifted again, revealing what looked like a grand conference hall. It was packed. People filled every seat, their eyes fixed on a stage where vibrant lights danced and energetic music played. On the stage, speakers took turns addressing the crowd. "This is what my people call a prophetic conference," Jesus replied, his voice tinged with sadness. "They flock to these events. They claim to teach how to pray, how to hear from me, how to become prophets. But these gatherings are little more than orchestrated performances, screenplays designed to excite, not to convict." I couldn't help but feel a heaviness in my heart. He gestured toward the stage. "These teachings are rooted in idolatry, more akin to self-improvement seminars than my truth. They don't draw my people closer to me. They draw them closer to themselves." I watched as the crowd cheered and applauded. I could see their hunger, their longing for something real. But I also noticed the emptiness in their eyes. It was a show, nothing more. I turned to the Lord, my voice trembling. Why do they do this? Why can't they see the truth? He met my gaze, his eyes filled with both sorrow and love. "Because they no longer seek me," he said simply. "They seek what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. And in doing so, they lose sight of me." The vision dimmed until only shadows remained, casting eerie shapes across a darkened scene. My pulse quickened as I saw a family sitting together, once whole, now broken. The father sat alone in a small, dimly lit apartment, his hands trembling as he stared at an unopened Bible. The mother stood by the window of another home, tears streaking her face as she clutched a photo of her daughter. The image flickered, showing a younger version of the family. They sat in a crowded church, faces hopeful, eyes filled with desperation. Their daughter lay on a cot beside them, frail and convulsing. A man on the pulpit, bold, confident, preached passionately, promising miracles. "If you give sacrificially," he declared, "God will heal your child." My stomach churned as I watched the parents empty their savings, handing over their last pennies. But the promised healing never came. The girl's condition worsened and the parents' faith shattered. The strain consumed their marriage, and they drifted apart, broken by pain and unmet expectations. Before I could process it all, Jesus spoke. His voice was gentle but firm, cutting through the weight of the scene. "This family was manipulated," he said, sorrow in his eyes. "The prophet saw their desperation, their longing for healing, and exploited it. He used their trust and vulnerability to serve his own greed." Jesus turned his gaze to me, his expression a mix of grief and resolve. "The consequences of such deception are devastating," he said. "It undermines trust in my messengers, the ones I have called to speak for me. When trust is broken, my people lose faith not just in leaders, but in me." My heart sank as the weight of his words settled over me. "This is the enemy's goal," Jesus continued, "to sow doubt, to corrupt my name through those who claim to represent me. And the damage doesn't stop there. Vulnerable Christians, those who rely on guidance from spiritual leaders, suffer deep emotional distress. They feel abandoned, betrayed, lost. The vision shifted once more, and I found myself surrounded by countless faces. Ordinary people, men and women, young and old. Their eyes were hollow, their expressions haunted. Some wandered aimlessly, as though searching for answers in an endless void. Others sat still, their shoulders slumped, too broken to cry out. The weight of their pain pressed against my chest. It was suffocating. My heart ached for them. "Lord," I whispered, my voice trembling, "what can be done? How can they be saved?" Jesus stood beside me, his presence radiant and unshakable. "My people must know the difference," he said, his tone firm but compassionate. I furrowed my brow. "The difference?" I asked. He nodded. "They must ask themselves hard questions. Does the church they attend teach obedience to my commandments? All of them, including the fourth, the one about the seventh-day Sabbath." My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't thought about that before. "Do they teach the times and holy days I have given in my word?" Jesus continued. "Days like Passover, the days of unleavened bread, and the Feast of Trumpets? Or have they replaced them with those rooted in pagan traditions?" Images flashed in my mind: Christmas trees, Easter eggs, Halloween costumes. I had celebrated them all without a second thought. Now, I saw them differently. "You mean like Christmas? Easter? Halloween?" Jesus' eyes met mine, his gaze unwavering. "Yes, these days are hidden behind a veneer of Christian reinterpretation. They claim to honor me, but their origins are far from me. My people must discern the difference." A pang of conviction gripped my chest. I had never questioned these things before. "My people must also beware of religious organizations," Jesus said. "Those that claim the authority to change my laws and commandments, substituting them with their own. When someone finds a church that replaces my word with man-made ordinances, they have found the counterfeit Christianity. This is how the spirit of the false prophet spreads deception around the world." My hands clenched into fists. "But how will they know what's true?" I asked. "How can they recognize a true prophet from a false one?" Jesus' voice softened, yet it carried unmistakable authority. A message from my prophet always confronts sin and error. It provides direction and warns of consequences. It does not come as fortune-telling or vague predictions. My word is specific, stern. It speaks truth without embellishment or emotional manipulation. My mind raced. I thought about the voices I had heard before, the ones proclaiming peace, prosperity, and unity. They sounded so convincing. What about those who promise revival, growth, harmony? They talk about becoming one church, about submission to a greater cause. Jesus' expression grew solemn. Be careful of them. My prophets do not speak of such things. Their anointing comes from me, not from man. No one can be trained to be a prophet. They speak only what they hear from me. Nothing more, nothing less. I felt a surge of both clarity and sorrow. The weight of Jesus' words settled deeply in my heart. Lord, I said quietly, what should I do? Speak the truth, Jesus replied, his voice steady. Not to entertain, not to gain followers, but to convict hearts and guide my people back to me. My word is the light that exposes every lie. The light around Jesus grew brighter, engulfing everything. I felt it wash over me, pure and overwhelming. The scene dissolved and the hum returned, a melodic sound that grew louder and louder until it consumed everything. When I opened my eyes, the light was gone. In its place was a heavy darkness. I stood in a barren, desolate wasteland. The air was suffocating, thick with the stench of rot. My chest tightened as I took it all in. An overwhelming sense of dread pressed against me. In the distance, a towering figure loomed, cloaked in shadow. Its form shifted grotesquely, never settling, as if it was made of living chaos. Surrounding the figure was a vast crowd. Their faces were pale, hollow, and lifeless. Yet they cheered with fervor, hanging on its every word. My heart pounded as I watched. The figure raised its hand, and the crowd erupted in blind adoration. Its voice boomed, smooth, alluring, and sickeningly confident. It promised power, wealth, and glory. The words were like honey, but beneath the surface, I sensed their poison. Each phrase dripped with lies, twisted to sound like truth. This is the false prophet that is to come, Jesus continued, his voice calm but filled with sorrow. He will be the climactic leader of the end-time rebellion, the Antichrist, the leader of a religion that rejects me, yet wears my name to deceive. My chest tightened. I wanted to cry out, to warn the crowd, but my voice was gone. My throat constricted, as if the darkness itself silenced me. I clenched my fists, helpless as the prophet's influence spread like a plague. The prophet's hand moved again, and a surge of light erupted from its palm. Supernatural signs filled the sky. Fiery illusions that danced like the heavens had opened. The crowd roared in awe, many falling to their knees in worship. They are blinded, Jesus said, because they have chosen to love the lie. Their hearts are far from me, so they cannot discern the truth. Anger surged within me, mixed with deep sorrow. What will happen to them? I asked, my voice trembling. Jesus' reply was heavy with sadness. Many will be led to destruction. He leads a religion that denies my truth while claiming to uphold it. His deception will cause more devastation and death than the world has ever seen. The weight of those words crushed my spirit. I looked again at the crowd. They were utterly captivated, their faces filled with awe and worship for a being that despised them. I wanted to scream, to grab them and shake them awake, but I was powerless. Before I could respond, a sudden flash of light enveloped me. The scene dissolved into blackness, leaving only the echo of Jesus' words in my heart. Tell them the truth. The sound of beeping monitors jolted me awake. My body ached, and my lungs burned with every breath. I was back, alive but profoundly changed. The memories of what I had seen were vivid, etched into my mind like a brand. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "Thank you, Jesus." Weeks later, I sat before my laptop again. The headline on the screen had changed. I went to the afterlife, and Jesus showed me the truth about the false prophet. This time, my words carried a different weight. I wasn't just a journalist anymore. I was a witness, a messenger. As I began typing, my heart swelled with a mix of fear and hope. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but the truth was worth it. After all, I had seen the way, the truth, and the life, and there was no turning back.